Basically everything except what is shaded. Everything except what? M. So you could say M with the apostrophe to describe that. There's actually 3 different ways to do that. You could do M with the line over the top, or you could also do the squiggle in front of M. All of those mean not M. Okay, that's what all of those are saying, and that's what's shaded here is not M. Okay, I started the recording a little bit late, so just to recap, we've just been talking about identifying a shaded part in terms of the terminology. We looked at this one. This is the union of M and N. That's how I would write that. We looked at this one. That's the intersection of M and N. That's how I would write that. And both of those are also from the front of the packet we did yesterday. And this one is just N. So that's how I would write that. Okay, so going to the packet for a moment. You guys did set theory practice 1 and practice 2 yesterday for homework. And those were pages 3 and 4. Let's go ahead and look at practice 1 together. Let me just see if I can get rid of this again. Let me just play with it for a second. I really don't know why it's doing that. I obviously clicked on something. It's hard to see what you're clicking on when it's over there on the other screen. And I clicked on something that I didn't need to click on. I'm going to close it and open it again and see if it goes away, because that's just annoying. Yep, it's gone. Watch it come back when I do that. Nope, okay. So set theory practice 1. First of all, our universal set, this tells me that my universal set has 10 items in it. And all of these names of students start with a different first letter. So I'm just going to use the first letter to describe each of them. Okay, so here's my 10 students. It says define the 2 subsets. The 2 subsets that were described were people who like football and people who like basketball. And I accidentally did something that you need to check and see if you did as well. When I first wrote it out, I did not leave enough space for these 2. Okay, it tells me, for instance, that football, Sarah, Alan, Kara, and Todd said football. But then later it says that Caleb and Brittany said both. So that means Caleb and Brittany also have to be in the football group. Okay, so make sure you put the C and the B or the Caleb and the Brittany in the football group and also in the basketball group. They belong in both. So then for my Venn diagram, it's usually a great idea when you're making a Venn diagram to start with figuring out what goes in the middle, what goes in the intersection. And we know that Caleb and Brittany are in both. Okay, so I put them in both. And then outside of the intersection, but still in F, is anybody who's in F but not in B. And outside of the intersection but still in B is anybody who's in B but not in F. And then it said Ethan doesn't like either football or basketball. So he goes outside of both sets. So that's what your Venn diagram on that one should look like. Let me give you a second to go ahead and double check it a little bit more closely and make sure yours does. Any questions about that one? About the Venn diagram? Okay, so then number 4 asks me for the intersection of F and B. That's what that symbol means. Intersection of F and B is Caleb and Brittany. They're in both groups. Then this one, number 5, asks me for the union. Looks like it says FUB. That's F union B. So that's everybody that's in either group or in both. We include the people who are in just one. We include the people who are in both. Everybody gets included. This one is asking me for anybody who is not in F. So basically what we do there is we picture this circle, the whole circle, including the part that's in the overlap. And then we say anybody who's not inside that circle. So that would be J, L, M, and E. So that's not F, which is number 6. And then number 7 does the same thing for B, not B. So anybody who's not in the B circle. So these letters are in the B circle. That does include the C and the B. Anybody who's not in B. So that would be S, A, K, T, and E. You could put them in a different order and spell skate. Yes. What was that? Yeah. Okay, number 8 says basically not the intersection. Okay, when you look at one that says something like this, you got to kind of break it down. First off, it's got this, which means the intersection. This is right here. That means the intersection of F and B. And then above it, it has this, which means not that. So that's saying anything that is not in the intersection, which is basically the same exact thing as what we did here. Everything that's not in the intersection. So for this drawing, that includes everything except C and B. So S, A, K, T, J, L, M, and E. Everything except C and B for number 8 is not in the intersection. And then number 9 is similar to that. It's talking about the union of F and B, which means everything that's in either one. But then above it has a line, so that means not. So anything that's not in the union. The union, image-wise, looks like this. So everything that's not in either of the circles at all basically just means poor little Ethan over here. Ethan's the only one who's not in a circle at all. So that's why Ethan is the only one here when it says not the union of F and B. Questions about any of those? All right, let's keep going. Set theory practice number 2, part A. Mr. Cagle surveys his class about the pets they have at home. He creates a Venn diagram to represent his findings. Set C is people who have cats. Set D is people who have dogs. And basically, we're not being told names of people. We're just being told how many people are in each group. So how many students does he have total? That would be anybody anywhere. So 5 plus 6 plus 4 plus 8 should be, I think, 23 students. Okay. How many students have cats? Now, let me just point out to you that the common error with this is for people to accidentally look at just one of these numbers, but not both. The number 6 and the number 4 are both inside the circle for C. So 6 plus 4 is 10. How many students are in the region C intersect D? In other words, the intersection of C and D, the overlap between them. And it says, what does it represent? Well, we just said that. So there are 4 students in there, and students who have both cats or cat and or dogs or dog. You could say maybe students who have at least one cat and at least one dog. How many students are in C prime is how we would say that, which means not C. So numbers that are not inside the circle for C. So that means not the 4 and not the 6. The 5 qualifies, the 8 qualifies. 5 plus 8 is 13. What does that represent? People who don't have what? Yep, students with no cat. All right, and then how many students are in CUD? That's the union of the two sets. That's everybody who's in any circle. So 6 plus 4 plus 8, that's 18. What does this region represent? This basically means anybody who has, yeah, I was going to say a pet, but you could also just say a cat or a dog because maybe they have fish or something, and that's not asked about. A cat or dog, and that includes or both. It's okay if they have both. You don't necessarily have to say that as long as you understand that. Okay? That if we say if they have a cat or a dog, we mean or the both of them. Okay, any questions on those? All right, let's move on to part B. Create a Venn diagram with the following sets. Consider the universal set to include only letters from these three sets, okay? So basically that means the universal set here includes letters in the word America, the word Cambodia, and the word Denmark. So like set A is A-M-E-R-I-C-N-A. We listed both letters. We listed the letters twice, but that's okay. Okay. So first of all, let's put them in here. So first off, I don't know, even before that, I think what I'll do first, I'm going to use a pen to have a little more space here. So hang on a second. I think to make this easier, I'm going to list the letters and I'm going to list them in alphabetical order. So in other words, letters in the word America. There's an A, there's a C, there's an E, there's an I, there's an M, and there's an R. So that's the first set, the letters in the word America. The second set C, is letters in the word Cambodia. So in alphabetical order, there's an A, there's a B, there's a C, and there's a D. Which leaves us an I, an M, and an O. And letters in the word Denmark, there's an A, there's a D, there's an E, there's a K, there's an M, an N, and an R. You don't have to list them alphabetically. The reason I did, though, is it helps me compare these three groups and see what are the same in each group. So that's the number one, well, not number one. That's very often the best place to start. If you're making a Venn diagram, start with what's in all of the groups. Start with the overlap of everything. So the overlap of everything would be in the middle right here. That's anything that's in A, C, and D. So A is in all three. M is in all three. I think that's it. So A and M go in the middle, the very middle. And then I'm going to try and keep track of which ones I've used. So I'm going to highlight. Used A and M. Okay. So then letters that are in both of these, but not all three, would go right up here because those are in group A and in group C. Okay, so C is in both and I is in both. So C goes here and I goes here. Okay, how about letters that are in A and D? That would be right here. E, what else? You got it. E and R are in both of those. Are there any letters that are in both C and D, but not A? D is, you're right. I've used D. Okay, it looks like everything in the set A has already been used. So there's nothing over here because over here is things that are in A that are not in any other group. But it looks like all of those are in one of the other groups too. B and O are in C, but nothing else. So I'm going to put them over here. K and N are in D, but nothing else. So I'm going to put them down here. Questions there? You good so far? Okay, so number 6, list the elements of A, U, D. So U means union. So that means anything in A, anything in D, anything in the overlap. So everything in either one of these circles. So not B, not O, is the stuff that's in A or D. So that's A. Kind of hard to do it alphabetically. I'm just going to skip the alphabetical part. C-I-A-M-E-R. D, K, and N. Hi there. Sure. How are you? Great. How are you? Sure. Olivia? Mr. McNally. Okay. List the elements of C intersect D. So that basically just means where C and D overlap. Note here, that's this whole area. You got to put those two together because that whole space is in C and in D. So that would be A, M, and D. Now for the next one, we just have to count, which is nice. It says how many elements are in not D, D prime. So that basically means how many letters are outside of this circle. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. List the elements for not the union of A and D. We did the union of A and D up here. So basically it's saying not what's in here. Anything that's not in this group. I think that's just B and O, right? Okay. Next says list the elements for not the intersection of A and C. The intersection of A and C is right there. So they're saying not C, I, A, or M. So anything that's not C, I, A, or M qualifies. So E, R, K, N, D, B, and O. And then the very last one, what part of the Venn diagram is that one talking about? You got it, the very middle. It's saying what elements are in A, intersect with C, intersect with D, meaning where they all overlap. So that's like this part right here. So that's A and M. Okay, so I have kind of wanted to change up, I kind of have changed up what I wrote on the Google Classroom for today, if you notice, and I'll probably go back and retype it. But I wanted to go over those completely. So we haven't really done the in-class practice that I was going to do, so I'm going to make it homework instead. Or you can start it now and it becomes, in the rest of class. All right, and so that is on Google Classroom. It's already attached for those of you at home. It looks like this. Okay, and I want to start it together because it says make a Venn diagram of the following chart showing what classes each student was enrolled in this semester. So Ashley, and these are all different first letters, so that's good. Ashley's in math and science, but not language arts. So I go to where math and science overlap, which is all here. This part would mean she's also in language arts. So if she's in math and science, but not language arts, she goes here. I'm about to give it to you. Thank you. Okay, so Chris, I'm skipping Betsy for a second. Chris says Chris is in all three, so Chris would go in the very middle. So I want you to go ahead and see if you could figure out where everybody would go there. I'm going to go ahead and hand this out to the people in the classroom while y'all are thinking about it. And then we'll talk about it together. We may just start, do the first part of this because these are a little bit more challenging, in my opinion. The ones on the back are not. Let me just give you 2 or 3 minutes to look at that and see if you could fill out where everybody goes. There's 11 letters, I think, to place. Just double checking here. I'm looking at attendance while you guys are doing this. I have that we are missing Winnie, Camilla, TJ, and Augustina. Looks like you guys are still working, so I won't jump in yet. Although I think you're further down on the page. So let me just go ahead and jump in and make sure we got the Venn diagram correct. Okay, so to me, I think it's helpful when we figure out what a section indicates, like Ashley is in math and science, but not language arts, to look and see if there's anybody else like that. And it looks like Eder is also that way. So Eder goes there. So we got Ashley, we got Eder, we got Chris. Does anybody else go in here with Chris? All three classes? Doesn't look like it, right? Okay. Betsy is in language arts and science, but not math. So that's this part over here. Language arts and science, but not math. If she was right here, she would also be in math. Anybody else in language arts, science, not math? Doesn't look like it. Devontae is in math and language arts, but not science. So Devontae goes there. Frank is in nothing, which means Frank goes outside the circles. George is in only science. Heather is in only language arts, and so is Jessica. So only language arts is Heather and Jessica. And Isabella and Krista are both in only math. So this is what I get for my Venn diagram. So hopefully ours match. Okay, so then it says, it doesn't say it, but basically it's asking me to say who's in LA. Okay, so LA, language arts. That's everybody in this whole circle. So B, C, D, H, J. Then this one is the intersection of math and science. So everybody who is in both of these two circles put together, which is this region right here. And it's both parts of that region. People who are in math and science are Ashley, Chris, and Eder. So A, C, and E. Then over here we have the people who are not in math. So everybody outside of the math circles. So H, J, B, G, and F. So I'm going to B, F, G, H, J. Those are all the people who are not taking math. Any questions so far? Like, why'd you put this here? Why'd you say this about who, etc.? All right, next we have math, union, language arts. So that's everybody who's in math and also in language arts. And or in either one, like any of those groups, anybody who's in any of those groups. So it's basically everybody but F and G. So A, B, C, D, E, not F, not G, H, I, J, K. Now compare what it says for F to what it said for E. The only difference here is it says not. So basically it's asking me who is not in this group right here. And we just said that's who. G and F, you got it. F and G are the only two who are not in the union of math and language arts, meaning they're not in math, they're not in language arts, they're not in both, they have nothing to do with math and language arts. Now, this is why I wanted to do this together. So I wanted to get into problems like this one. This is where they start getting a little bit more tricky. This is the intersection, so overlap, between math and not language arts. So it's people who are in math and also are not in language arts. So I have to look up here and see who's in the math circle, but is also not in language arts. So not the D and not the C, because they would be in language arts. So it's just these people over here in math and also not in language arts. So K, I, A, and E. Now, letter H is asking about the intersection of all three groups. So that's who? Yep, Chris, just the C. Okay, so next one, L, that's another one we kind of have to break down. The first part says the union of math and language arts. So the first part here is the same as E. It's saying the intersection of that group, the union of math and language arts, and science. So the intersection of this group and people who are in science. So it's only people in this group who are also in science. So that would be A, E, C, and B. Let me do that. Hypothetical just for fun. And last but not least for this one, this says the intersection of math and language arts. The intersection of math and language arts is the D and the C, folks. Union, everybody in science. So that includes everybody in science, whether or not they have anything to do with math and language arts. So this intersection plus everybody in this circle. So that's pretty much everybody in this circle plus D. Everybody in science and also everybody who's in the intersection of math and language arts. So A, B, C, D, E, and G. Questions there? Like I said earlier, some of these take some thought. Okay, so I'm going to let you finish number 2 and then the back for homework. The back, these are actually a little bit, I don't know. I think they're a little bit easier. Maybe that's because they're about like a real thing. They're not just like name. Well, maybe because they're numbers. I don't know why. I like these a little better, the ones in the back. So you're doing what? 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Questions on that? And you know what, folks at home, we'll probably do tomorrow the same way we did yesterday. Because tomorrow we're going on in the packet to the next notes page, and I'll probably just go ahead and do the notes in class this period and then post the video. So if you want to do the notes with us this period, I'll open up the Google Meet. But otherwise, I was able to get the notes posted yesterday by like 9:20. So they should be up pretty close to the end of this period, if not maybe a little bit before. All right, so I will see you guys next on Thursday. Thanks for coming.